all started with one pickup truck, a dark logging road, and a police officer who decided something didn't feel right. That one gut feeling would uncover 4 murders that would change countless lives forever. One husband, one wife.
Both true crime fans.
A different case every episode.
One terrifying story at a time.
I'm Carla.
And I'm Phil.
Welcome to Terrifying and Twisted.
That were about take 5.
Hey up! Welcome back to episode 6.
Carla's doing my boxing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome to episode 6.
Listen, it's school holidays, right? We have got an ADHD little hey-hole that's not medicated.
He's been winding Carla up before we came and filmed this.
So it's been a struggle to get me even feeling like doing this episode.
You just have to laugh at him.
There's only so much I can laugh at him. Are you forgetting that we're both ADHD?
He's the king of wind up, is our Travis.
Yeah, he is. And yeah, I just get so overstimulated by him. But anyway, episode 6, welcome back.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed, but squirmed at episode 5.
Yeah, episode 5 was a really good one for me personally because I'd never heard of it. English, and it gave me something to look at after the episode, which was the petition for Holly's Law.
Yeah.
So as horrific and brutal as it was, rest in peace Holly, I enjoyed it. It gave me something to do. So what have we been up to, Mr. Hop?
Watching England get knocked out at World Cups.
Yeah, we did.
By Argentina.
Our Travis experienced his first heartbreak.
Yeah. And I said to him, son, this was me 30 years ago when Gareth Southgate missed that penalty. I went round to the park and I cried my eyes out on my own because I was heartbroken. And guess what, son? It's going to happen time and time again because it's never fucking coming out.
I won't mind, but I was so upset for him being upset, and it upset me. Yeah, I was gutted about football, but it's football. It were him that upset me. And you were just like, meh, yeah, I'm used to it.
I'm the most into football, like watching it religiously. And I was the least bothered. But that is because I've had 30 years of watching solid international football. Have it been shite?
Not to mention you're a Leeds fan, so...
Oh, yeah.
That definitely helps with heartbreak, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So apart from... obviously, World Cup.
We watched Twisted Sisters.
Oh, I highly recommend, if you've not seen the... were it 2-part?
Yeah.
2-part documentary on Channel 5.
Yeah.
Twisted Sisters, Madness and Manslaughter.
Yes.
Wow. I knew very little. I knew, without giving too much away for anybody that hasn't seen it and wants to see it, obviously there's some really famous CCTV footage at the side of the motorway. So I knew that. And I knew they were twin sisters. But other than that, I knew very little.
Your sister's watched it, haven't she?
Yeah, she commented on his post saying she knew about this one. It was just fucking crazy.
I'll tell you what else we watched that were a bit nuts. The Shipwrecked thing on Netflix.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It were only one episode.
Yeah.
What were it called?
Shipwrecked something at sea. You'll find it on Netflix.
Yeah, that was that fucking captain just refusing to abandon ship.
Yeah, we've got a massive hole in the side of the boat.
No, we haven't.
Shall we abandon ships, Captain? No.
We'll just see how it goes. Yeah. So we did watch that. Anything else we've watched? Obviously, we've finished Love Island.
You finished Love Island.
We've finished Love Island.
You finished Love Island. But apart from that, not off the top of my head. So we might as well just jump straight into your case. I hope everyone liked my clap back to ERM 7366.
Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
Do you know, most of the feedback has been really, really nice, hasn't it?
But if there's some feedback that is useful, like you could do this with your audio, or you could do this with your setup, or Phil needs to talk a little bit louder, anything like that, then we'll take it. But don't fucking lie.
Don't do liars.
No. So what's your case?
So, my case this week. Let me put my brew down. Let me get my research out. So as always, before I jump into this case, I'm going to give you a trigger warning. Before we get started, a quick warning that today's episode will discuss murder, violence and crimes against women. Some listeners may find parts of this case upsetting, so please take care while listening. Are you ready?
Yep.
Born ready.
Yep.
So we're going to jump back to the 27th of November 2010. We're going to go to Prince George in British Columbia, Canada.
I'd love to go to Canada.
I was just about to say, if we could up and just move, Canada would be our
Well,
place.
I'd just still love to visit. Canada over America.
100%.
No diss to people who's listening from America.
No, but I just don't think, well, every country's got its problems at the minute, hasn't it? That's all we'll say on that. So we're over in Prince George, British Columbia, and it's just before 10 o'clock at night. Prince George is surrounded by forest and logging roads, and hunting is just a part of everyday life. So seeing a pickup truck driving around late at night isn't unusual. An RMCP officer called Aaron Keller was out on a routine patrol when he noticed a pickup truck coming off one of these remote logging roads. And at first it looked like any other truck, but as Keller pulled up behind it, something caught his eye. There was quite a bit of blood. Now, if someone had been hunting, that wasn't suspicious.
Where's this blood, sorry?
On the back of this truck.
Right.
So that alone wouldn't be suspicious, it's actually pretty normal. But there was enough blood for Keller to think, do you know what? I'm going to just pull this over and make sure that everyone's all right. And that's exactly what he did. The truck pulled over and behind the wheel was 20-year-old Cody Allen Legebokoff. I hope I've said that right.
Say it again.
Legebokoff. I'm not going to be repeating that.
Say it again.
No. Fuck off. I'm just going to refer to him as Cody. Keller walked up to the driver's window and asked where he'd been. Cody told him, I've been out hunting. So obviously he asked about this blood. Cody explained that he'd shot a deer, but it didn't die straight away. He said he had to beat it to death before then placing it in the back of his truck, which I thought were a bit bizarre because if you're hunting, do you not shoot a deer? We don't hunt, so I have no idea. Like, do you not just shoot it?
That was my next question. When was the last time you hunted? I don't know. Do some of them fucking bow and arrow?
Well, anyway, he basically said that he didn't kill it first time and he had to beat it to
Right,
death.
so it's in back of truck.
Keep that in your head. So on its own, that explanation wasn't impossible to believe. But still, something didn't sit right with Keller. And instead of simply believing Cody and sending him on his way, he asked if he minded stepping out of the truck. As Cody climbed out, he noticed he had a fresh cut on his hands. And again, on its own, it isn't anything necessarily suspicious. If he had just been hunting, it could have easily have happened. But Keller decided to ask him a few more questions. Where exactly have you been? Who have you been with? And what have you been doing? He looked at the truck, looked at all the blood, and then he looked back at Cody. And in that moment, he decided this needs looking at a bit deeper. Instead of letting Cody drive away, Keller detained him while he called for backup. Once other officers arrived, they began taking a closer look at Cody's truck. Police started trying to work out exactly where he'd been that evening and who he'd been with. But to understand why, we need to rewind a few hours. And this is going to bring us to 15-year-old Lauren Leslie, who was from Fraser Lake, which is around 100 miles west of Prince George. From everything I've read about Lauren, she wasn't one of those teenagers with a huge friendship group. And like a lot of teenagers back then, she spent a lot of time on social media, making friends online, using a site called Nextopia? Nextopia?
Pass.
It's basically like a Facebook, I think.
Shout out MySpace.
MySpace. Bebo. They were the days. And it was there that she started talking to somebody under the username One Country Boy. That person was Cody. The two had exchanged messages before agreeing to meet. From those messages, Lauren made it extremely clear that she wasn't looking for anything sexual. She just wanted somebody to hang out with and be friends with. The two arranged to meet at a playground, and witnesses later saw them sitting together on the swings, chatting and laughing. At some point after that, Lauren climbed into Cody's pickup truck, and that would be the last confirmed sighting of Lauren alive. Exactly what happened after Lauren got into that truck, nobody knows. But what we do know is that Lauren never made it home that night. And for a family, that was really unusual and out of character. As the hours passed, they tried calling her phone, but nothing. They contacted her friends, hoping that someone had seen her. Nobody had. By the following day, that worry had turned into panic, and Lauren was officially reported as missing. Police immediately began piecing together her final movements. They spoke to family, friends, and followed up on any reported sightings, and slowly began building a timeline of where she'd been and who she'd been with. But while that group of officers were desperately trying to find Lauren, there was another investigation that was starting to unfold. And before long, those two investigations were about to collide. So we're going to go back to the traffic stop with Cody, and officers started examining his truck more closely. It didn't take long for them to realise his story about hunting a deer wasn't adding up. Because if he had beaten a deer to death and thrown it in the back of the truck, where was it? There wasn't one. Instead, investigators found something more concerning. There was a lot of blood inside that truck. There was a pipe wrench, a multi-tool, and a distinctive little monkey backpack. When officers looked inside this backpack, they found Lauren Leslie's purse containing her ID and her mobile phone. And at that point, everything changed. Because police now knew the missing 15-year-old they'd been searching for had in fact been inside Cody's truck. But they still had no idea where she was. So because of the remote terrain, officers called in a conservation officer called Cameron Hill to help search the area, concentrating on that original logging road that Cody was seen coming out of. He followed the fresh tyre tracks leading away from that logging road, and he spotted a single set of footprints disappearing into the snow. He followed them, and there, in a gravel pit, just off that logging road, he found Lauren Leslie's body. What had started out as a routine traffic stop had now become a murder investigation. Police soon had Cody in custody, but they still had a huge question. Who exactly was Cody Alan Legebokoff? Cody was born on the 21st of January 1990, and he grew up in Fort St James, a small town around an hour and a half northwest of Prince George. And by all accounts, he had what most people would describe as a pretty ordinary upbringing. He lived with his mum and dad, he had an older brother, and he spent most of his childhood doing what a lot of kids in that part of British Columbia did. He loved being outdoors, hunting, fishing and camping. And as he got older, he left school and found work in the oil and gas industry. He earned good money for somebody his age, drove around his own pickup truck, and from the outside in, there was very little to suggest he was capable of what investigators were starting to suspect. But that also wasn't the full picture, because by the age of 19, Cody had started living two very different lives. During the day, he appeared to be an ordinary young man with a steady job and a close family. But behind closed doors, he had developed a heavy cocaine addiction. Prosecutors would later argue that it was this addiction that brought him into contact with vulnerable women in and around Prince George. So as the investigators dug deeper into Cody's life, they searched everything they could. His truck, his home, his clothes, mobile phone, computer. Every item carefully examined, every blood sample was tested, every piece of evidence was logged. Because by now, investigators weren't just trying to prove what had happened to Lauren Leslie. They were trying to work out whether Cody had done this before. As investigators worked through that evidence, one detective couldn't shake the feeling that Lauren's murder reminded him of another case. That detective was Inspector Lorne Wood. Lorne had already been involved in the investigation into 35-year-old Cynthia Mass. whose body had been discovered just a few weeks earlier. And standing at Lauren's crime scene, he noticed similarities that immediately caught his attention. The injuries, the way her body had been left, and the location. It was enough to make him wonder whether these two cases could somehow be connected. So he got in touch with the detectives who were investigating Cynthia's death. And while those conversations were taking place, forensic scientists continued to examine the evidence that had been recovered from Cody. Then came a phone call that changed the direction of the entire investigation. The lab had identified blood belonging to yet another woman, 23-year-old Natasha Montgomery.
So he's a potential serial killer at 20 years old.
20 years old. For investigators, this was a huge breakthrough because up until that moment, Natasha's disappearance had been a mystery. For the first time, they had a direct link between Natasha and Cody. And suddenly, the detectives realised they might not be dealing with a single murder, they could be looking at a potential serial killer. 20-year-old is pretty young for a serial killer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've done listened to whatever you want to call it, true crime for a long time.
I think a lot at that age that have killed would be more like your mass murderers that have shot up a school or killed the family, so all in one go.
Yeah.
As opposed to one left a bit.
Yeah. So who was Natasha Montgomery? Natasha was a 23-year-old woman living in Prince George. She struggled with addiction and at times found herself living a chaotic lifestyle. But that was only one part of who Natasha was. She was a daughter, a sister and a mum, and someone who was loved by the people around her. Natasha had been reported missing at the end of August 2010, after family and friends realised they hadn't heard from her. And as the days turned to weeks, there were very few leads to follow. No witnesses came forward, nobody knew where she'd gone or who she'd been with. At the time, investigators had no way of knowing that her disappearance would eventually be linked to a 20-year-old man from Fort St James. And it wasn't until the forensic testing connected Natasha's blood to Cody's apartment that all changed. Although Natasha's body had never been found, the evidence investigators uncovered was enough for prosecutors to prove that she had been murdered. But Natasha wasn't the only unsolved case investigators were now taking a look at. Inspector Longwood couldn't ignore some of the similarities he'd noticed between Lauren Leslie and the death of another woman. I butchered that word. Her name was Cynthia Mass. Cynthia was 35 years old and living in Prince George. Again, she was a mum, a daughter, a sister, and someone who was loved by the people who knew her. Like Natasha, Cynthia had struggled with addiction and at times was left vulnerable. Cynthia was last seen on the 9th of September 2010, and a month later, on the 9th of October, her body was discovered in a wooded area of Prince George.
So she was September and one was November.
Police had already launched a murder investigation, but despite efforts, there had been very few answers. They didn't know who had killed Cynthia or why. But now, with Cody in custody and forensic evidence continuing to come back, investigators finally got the answer they'd been searching for. DNA evidence linked Cody directly to Cynthia's murder. Her DNA was found on several items recovered by police, including a logging tool that had been seized from Cody's apartment, and for Inspector Longwood, it confirmed what he'd suspected from the moment he stood at Lauren Leslie's crime scene, that these cases weren't isolated, they were connected. But the investigation didn't stop there. As more forensic results came back, detectives uncovered yet another link to Cody. This time, it was to the murder of 35 years old Jill Stuchenko. Suddenly, investigators realised that they weren't just looking at two murders connected to the same man. They were now uncovering a pattern that had stretched back for more than a year.
So is that 4?
Yep, including Lauren. Jill was 35 years old and she was a mum of 6 living in Prince George. And
mum of 6.
Yep. And like both Natasha and Cynthia, she'd struggled with addiction for a number of years. You can see the pattern here, can't you?
He's into his cocaine.
In October 2009, Jill disappeared. Just a few weeks later, her body was discovered in a gravel pit on the outskirts of Prince George. And at the time, investigators had no idea who was responsible for her murder, and it would take more than a year before they finally got their answer. As forensic scientists continued analysing the evidence seized from Cody, they uncovered another crucial piece of evidence. Jill's DNA was identified on bloodstains found inside Cody's apartment, directly linking him to her murder. But by now, there was no longer any doubt. Investigators weren't dealing with separate, unrelated cases. They believed they've just identified a serial killer. By now, investigators believed they had built an incredibly strong case against Cody. The forensic evidence had linked him to 4 women, but Cody wasn't admitting to being a serial killer. In fact, as investigators continued questioning him, his version of events began to change. When he was first stopped by police on that logging road, Cody claimed the blood inside his truck come from a deer that he'd beaten to death while hunting. Investigators quickly proved that wasn't true. After Lauren's body was discovered and Cody was taken to custody, he continued to deny any involvement in her murder. At one point, he claimed he found Lauren already dead. He even suggested that she had taken her own life.
So he found her dead and then he just fucked off and just left her?
Just left her there.
Yeah.
But as investigators confronted him with more evidence, his story changed again. He then admitted to meeting Lauren through social media and confirmed that she had been in his truck that night. At first, he denied that the two had been sexually involved. But when confronted with the forensic evidence, he had to change his account once more, and he eventually admitted that they had had sex. Cody then claimed that Lauren became suicidal. He told investigators that she started to strike herself with the pipe wrench before stabbing herself in the neck. He admitted to moving her body and claimed he hit her afterwards to, in his words, I quote, put her out of her misery.
To finish her off.
Investigators did not believe his account, and as the case moved towards trial, Cody's story would change yet again. So in June of 2014, Cody's trial began at the Supreme Court of British Columbia. Over the following months, the jury heard from investigators, forensic experts and witnesses as the Crown laid out the case against him. By this point, prosecutors believed the evidence against Cody was overwhelming. DNA evidence had linked him to all 4 victims. Investigators had recovered blood from his truck and apartment, and forensic testing had connected him to each of the women in different ways. But despite all of that, Cody maintained he wasn't a serial killer. In a more surprising move, he then decided to testify in his own defence.
Which you don't see often.
No, you don't. Who was that? Remind me when I finish this case. Remind me. Defence. And when he took the stand, he changed his story once again. So rather than claiming he alone had been present, Cody decided to tell the jury that 3 drug dealers, whom he referred to as only X, Y and Z, were actually responsible for the murders. He claimed that they had killed Jill, Natasha and Cynthia. As for Lauren, Cody continued to insist he hadn't murdered her either. Instead, he repeated his claim that she had become suicidal and that everything that happened afterwards had spiralled out of control. The Crown argued that Cody's version of events simply didn't fit the evidence, and throughout the trial, prosecutors carefully dismantled his account by using forensic evidence, witness testimony and the inconsistencies in his own changing stories. Not only had his story changed several times, it was also contradicted by the forensic evidence. The jury heard how DNA linked Cody to each of these women. Natasha Montgomery's blood was found inside Cody's apartment. Cynthia Massa's DNA was discovered from a logging tool seized from his apartment, as well as other items belonging to Cody. Jill's DNA had been identified on bloodstains inside his apartment, and Lauren Leslie, investigators had far more than just DNA.
Like they're literally all over you, mate.
All over your home, all over your truck, all over your clothes.
Yeah, all over.
No denying it, is there? As for Lauren, investigators had far more than just DNA. She had been last seen getting into Cody's truck. Her purse and mobile were found inside that truck. Her body Her body was discovered just a short distance from where Cody had been stopped by the police. The Crown argued that when all the evidence was looked at together, there was only one reasonable conclusion, that Cody was responsible for all 4 murders. So after hearing months of evidence, it was now up to the jury to decide whether they agreed. And on the 11th of September 2014, after hearing months of evidence, the jury returned to the courtroom to deliver their verdict. And one by one, each charge was read out. For the murder of Jill, guilty. For the murder of Natasha, guilty. For the murder of Cynthia, guilty. And for the murder of 15-year-old Lauren Leslie, guilty. The jury found Cody guilty on all 4 counts of first-degree murder. A few weeks later, he was sentenced to life in prison and not eligible for parole for 25 years. So at just 24 years old, Cody became one of Canada's youngest ever convicted serial killers.
And he'll still be young
when he gets out.
When he gets eligible for parole.
Yeah, absolutely. But we all know that parole all depends on...
Don't mean shit.
Well, no,
it just means you're eligible.
Yeah, because it doesn't mean that you're going to get out. It all depends on the remorse and whether you accept your responsibility in that case.
And whether they deem you safe.
Yep, absolutely.
But on one of your previous podcasts, did they not deem Gregory Green safe?
Yeah, and look what happened there. He killed his entire family again for a second time.
Yeah.
But he fooled Pastor Green, didn't he? But while the verdict brought justice, it couldn't undo the devastation that had been left behind. 4 women had lost their lives, 4 families had been left to pick up the pieces, and for one family in particular, the search for answers still wasn't over. One family is still waiting for the chance to bring their loved one home, because Natasha Montgomery's body has never been found, even now. More than a decade later, her family still do not know where she is. For Jill, Cynthia and Lauren, no sentence could ever undo the pain that the families had lived with ever since their murders. 4 women, 4 families and countless lives changed forever. So what began as a routine traffic stop on that remote logging road became one of the most significant serial murder investigations in British Columbia's history. Had RCMP Constable Aaron Keller not noticed Cody's truck leaving that logging road that night, there's no way of knowing how many more lives could have been lost.
Well, if it weren't for that copper, but it sounds a bit, they didn't have shit.
No.
They obviously didn't have no leads. I don't know if they're investigating anyone or out, but it sounds a bit from what you've told me, they didn't have shit. And if he hadn't stopped that car, then there could have been 2, 3 more. Because it sounds a bit, he was killing at a rapid rate as well.
Yep. Well, I've watched interviews with Aaron Keller, and every interview he says it was just a gut feeling.
Yeah.
There was just something, instincts were telling him.
Always trust your gut.
Yeah.
Depending on what you've had.
This is true, because sometimes it just might be that dodgy food. So that is the case of Cody Legebokoff, if I've said it right.
Canada's youngest serial killer.
Yep.
Wow.
I found it fascinating at just 20, like we've already discussed this, so I don't want to repeat it, but 20 is such a young age.
Yeah. Well, he's a little bit older than our eldest.
Do you want to know how I come across this? So, I'm on quite a few true crime groups on social media, and a girl shared an email that she'd received because she knew Cody and he'd been pestering her to go hang out with him.
Oh, fucking hell.
And she'd shared the screenshots of their conversations, the email. So she got an email from they were making a documentary about him, and they wanted her to feature on this documentary. She never went through with it, but she put all these screenshots in, and I was reading comments, and everybody was just like, what a close fucking call.
And she obviously had a gut feeling.
Yeah. So that's how I come across this case. Own defence. Who was the man that we watched in court representing himself? He had all boxers.
Yeah, he had boxers in front of his face because he didn't want to be on camera.
What were he called?
I can't remember what they were called. Bradley something. That might not be it.
No, it wasn't. Do you know?
But he were hilarious.
I know I shouldn't laugh because you're in court for a reason and it's a crime. But were it during COVID? Because it was obviously live streamed, but he wasn't in the same room as the judge. And he had all his fucking evidence boxes up on desk. And at one point, did he not swipe them all off?
Yeah.
He was funny.
Hilarious.
So anyway, that's a bit of a side quest.
So I hope you enjoyed episode 6.
Yep, we'll be back for episode 7.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please like on YouTube, leave us a review on Spotify, like our Facebook page, like our TikTok page.
All that shit.
If you could do any of them, that would be great to just try and help us.
We're slowly getting there.
Slowly.
But we appreciate you coming back every week to listen to me and you just ramble on.
So we'll see you next week.
See you soon.
Love you. Bye.